The massive digital archives of the Galactic Council hummed with the collective memory of 1,000 dead civilizations. Deep within the crystalline data cores, information flowed like rivers of light, carrying the final words of species that had vanished eons ago. Dr. Vexili pressed her four-fingered hand against the neural interface, her reptilian features glowing softly in the blue light of the archive chamber. For 30 years, she had been the Council's lead archaeologist, piecing together fragments of ancient history like a cosmic detective. But today, something different caught her attention. A pattern that shouldn't exist, buried so deep in the archives that most researchers never bothered to look. Impossible, she breathed, her translator device converting her native Zephyrian clicks into galactic standard. The word that kept appearing across dozens of extinct civilizations made her scales tingle with excitement. Humans. The Krathen, Empire's final log spoke of mysterious bipedal warriors who saved their homeworld from mechanical invaders, then disappeared without explanation. The peaceful Tilari recorded similar beings who ended a brutal civil war in a single day, showing mercy to both sides before vanishing into space. Even the warlike Sectar mentioned these strange creatures in their death songs, calling them ghost warriors who fought like demons but wept for their enemies. Dr. Vexili's breathing quickened as she pulled up more files. The Nexari Collective, wiped out by a plague 2,000 years ago, had carved stone monuments depicting tall, smooth-skinned beings who brought them medicine from the stars. The Velnari spoke of protectors who appeared during their darkest hour, when cosmic raiders threatened to enslave their entire species. Every single record described the same impossible beings, creatures who could wage war with devastating efficiency, yet always showed unexpected compassion. Warriors who seemed to appear from nowhere during galactic crises, solve impossible problems, then fade back into legend. The laboratory door hissed open, and Commander Nalthos stepped inside. His scaled armor clinked softly as he moved, his yellow eyes narrowing with familiar irritation. As the Council's military liaison, he had little patience for what he called ancient fairy tales. "Still wasting time on your ghost stories, Vexili," he growled, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had commanded fleets in real battles. "The Defense Committee is asking questions about your research budget. They want to know why we're funding mythology instead of practical archaeology." Dr. Vexili turned to face him, her excitement barely contained. "These aren't myths, Nalthos. Look at this data." She gestured, and holographic displays filled the air around them. Star charts, linguistic analyses, energy signatures, all painting the same incredible picture. 17 different species, scattered across the galaxy, all extinct now. But before they died, they all recorded encounters with the same beings, humans. The descriptions are too consistent to be coincidence. Height, appearance, behavioral patterns, even their technology signatures match across thousands of years and millions of light years. Nalthos snorted, his tail lashing behind him. Convenient heroes who leave no physical evidence, no ships, no bases, no bodies, just stories told by dying civilizations desperate for hope. But that's what makes it so compelling, Vexili insisted, pulling up a tactical analysis. Look at the pattern. These humans only appeared during existential crises. The Krathen faced extinction from machine armies. The Tilari were destroying themselves in civil war. The Sectar were being invaded by dimensional parasites. In each case, these mysterious humans solved problems that seemed impossible, then vanished completely. She highlighted specific data points, her voice growing more animated. They never claimed territory, never demanded tribute, never established colonies or trade routes. They just helped, then disappeared. What kind of species does that? Commander Nalthos studied the displays with growing skepticism. The kind that exists only in desperate imaginations. Face it, Vexili, you're chasing shadows. Dead civilizations create heroes to explain their failures. But Dr. Vexili had saved the most compelling evidence for last. With a dramatic gesture, she activated a new holographic display. This one showed something that made even Nalthos step back in surprise. "Then explain this," she said quietly. The display showed energy readings from the void between star systems, areas of space that should be empty and dead. But hidden in the cosmic background radiation were patterns that didn't belong there. Faint signatures of advanced technology moving through the darkness between the galaxies like silent watchers. These readings are recent, Nalthos, not ancient. History. Something is out there using technology that doesn't match any known civilization in our databases. The energy patterns are consistent with the theoretical propulsion systems described in the human encounters. The commander's confident smirk faded as he studied the data. The signatures were subtle, almost invisible unless you knew exactly what to look for. But they were there, creating a network of surveillance that spanned the galaxy's outer rim. This could be anything, he said, but his voice lacked its earlier certainty. Automated probes from a lost civilization. Natural phenomena. We don't understand yet. Or, Dr. Vexili said softly, the humans never left. They're still out there, still watching, still protecting us from threats we can't even imagine. As if responding to her words, the archive chamber's lights flickered, and deep in the data streams, something stirred. Ancient warning systems, dormant for millennia, began to whisper in languages the galaxy had forgotten. The legends were about to become reality. The bridge of the UES Defiant hummed with quiet energy as Captain Hyunwoo Kim stood before the massive view screen, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. The sight before him would have taken the breath away from any galactic citizen who had grown up on stories of mythical humans. Stretching across the darkness of space, 10,000 human vessels moved in perfect formation, their sleek hulls gleaming with technology that had evolved in 3 millennia of isolation. Status report, Hyunwoo commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had spent decades preparing for this moment. Lieutenant Sujin Park looked up from her communications console, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. Sir, long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements near the galactic core. It looks like every major civilization is mobilizing their forces. The Zephyrian Third Fleet, Krathan battle groups, even the normally peaceful Tilari are moving warships into position. Captain Kim nodded slowly, a slight smile touching his lips. Good. That means our wake-up call worked. The wake-up call had been years in the making. Across hundreds of dead worlds, ancient human technology had been sleeping for 3,000 years. Automated beacons, hidden in the ruins of civilizations that the galaxy had forgotten, suddenly blazing to life. Warning systems that had been dismissed as archaeological curiosities, now screaming their alerts across space in a language that scholars thought was pure mythology. Sir, called out Engineer Taemin Lee from the tactical station, the beacon network is fully operational. Every dead system from here to the Andromeda Gap is broadcasting our message. Hyunwoo walked to the tactical display, studying the galaxy-wide map. Red dots marked the locations of activated beacons, creating a network that spanned the known galaxy. Each one told the same story in ancient human script. The Watchers return, the long vigil ends, prepare for what comes after. Show me the fleet status, he ordered. The holographic display shifted, revealing the true scope of humanity's return. The Defiant was just the flagship of a armada that defied imagination. Massive carrier vessels, each one housing thousands. 5 smaller craft, sleek destroyers with weapons that could crack planets. Hospital ships carrying medical technology that could cure diseases the galaxy thought incurable. And at the center of it all, the construction ships that had built humanity's new home among the stars. 3,000 years, whispered Navigator. Young-Soo Choi staring at the display. 3,000 years of building, preparing, waiting, and now the waiting is over, Hyunwoo replied. How long until we reach the galactic border? At current speed, 18 hours, Young-Soo answered. But sir, the other civilizations are scrambling their fleets. They're treating us as a potential invasion force. The captain's expression grew thoughtful. Can you blame them? To them, we're the monsters from their bedtime stories. Mythical warriors who could appear from nowhere and reshape entire star systems. Lieutenant Park's console chimed urgently. Captain, we're receiving transmissions from the approaching fleets. They're demanding we identify ourselves and state our intentions. Not yet, Hyunwoo said firmly. Let them wonder. Let them remember. The old stories. When we finally speak, they'll listen. Across the galaxy, on Council Station Alpha, chaos ruled the command center. Admiral Kexran of the Galactic Defense Force stood before a tactical display that showed readings his instruments could barely comprehend. The approaching fleet was moving at speeds that should have been impossible, using technology that didn't match any known civilization in their databases. "Sir," his aide, a young Telari named Nexvan, reported with barely controlled panic, "the energy signatures are off the charts. Some of those ships are reading as large as our entire space stations." Kexaran's 4 eyes studied the data with growing alarm. In his 40 years of military service, he had never seen anything like this. "How many ships are we tracking?" "That's the problem, sir. Our sensors keep giving us different numbers. It's like they're using some kind of stealth technology that makes accurate counting impossible. Best estimate is between 8 and 12,000 vessels." The Admiral's blue skin paled to a sickly gray. 12,000 ships. That's larger than the combined fleets of the entire Galactic Council. "Sir," interrupted Communications Officer Veltara, "we're receiving reports from deep space monitoring stations. The approaching fleet isn't just large, it's impossibly advanced. They're moving in formations that our computers can't even analyze. It's like watching a single organism move through space." Admiral Kexran activated the emergency protocols, his voice echoing through the station's corridors. "All stations, this is Fleet Command. We have an unknown armada approaching from the Galactic Rim. All available ships are to form defensive positions around Council space. This is not a drill." But even as he spoke, he knew their defenses would be useless against what was coming. The energy readings alone suggested weapons technology, centuries beyond anything the Council possessed. "Sir," Veltara called out, "the deep space beacons are still broadcasting. The translation matrix has finally decoded part of the message." "Put it on screen," Kexran ordered. The ancient human script filled the view screen, its translation appearing below in galactic standard. "The children of Earth return. The long watch ends. The real war begins." As the words sank in, Admiral Kexran felt a chill run down his spine. Every child in the galaxy had heard the stories of the mythical humans, but no one had ever imagined they might be real, or that they might be coming home. "Prepare first contact protocols," he ordered grimly, "and may the stars help us all." The massive docking bay of Council Station Alpha had never seen anything like the Soul's Pride. The human flagship glided through the energy barriers with impossible grace, its hull shimmering with technology that made the station's engineers whisper in amazement. Weapon systems that could level cities tracked the approaching vessel, but somehow everyone knew those weapons would be useless against what they were seeing. Captain Lee Minho stood in the airlock, checking his diplomatic uniform one final time. Behind him, his small team adjusted their translation devices. Though they had spent years perfecting every known galactic language, this moment had been planned for decades, rehearsed countless times in simulations, but nothing could prepare them for the weight of history pressing down on their shoulders. "Remember," Minho said quietly to his team, "we're not just representing humanity today. We're proving that the old stories were real." The airlock cycled open with a soft hiss, and Captain Minho stepped into Council Station Alpha. The corridor stretched before them, lined with alien soldiers whose weapons trembled in their hands. These beings had grown up on stories of mythical humans, never imagining they might one day stand face to face with the legends themselves. Engineer Ji Un-cho walked beside the captain, her scanner discreetly analyzing the station's defenses. What she saw made her heart ache with sympathy. The Council's most advanced technology was centuries behind what humanity had developed during their long exile. These people had no idea what was coming for them. "Captain," she whispered, "their shields couldn't stop a single Devourer scout. We're looking at billions of lives that don't even know they're in danger." The great doors of the Council chamber opened with a thunderous boom. Inside, representatives from dozens of species sat in rising tiers, their alien faces showing everything from curiosity to outright terror. At the center of it all, Dr. Vexili sat with her research data, her reptilian features glowing with vindication. She had been right all along. Captain Minho walked to the center of the chamber, his team forming a small circle around him. The silence was absolute. Even the station's life support systems seemed to hold their breath. Honored representatives of the Galactic Council, Minho began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. I am Captain Lee Minho of the United Earth Systems. We come before you not as conquerors seeking territory, but as guardians returning from a long and lonely watch. His words were perfectly pronounced in galactic standard, but there was something in his accent that made the ancient recording devices in the archives activate automatically. The same vocal patterns that appeared in thousand-year-old legends, speaking the same language that dead civilizations had tried so hard to preserve. Council Speaker Thexara, a towering insectoid with 4 arms and compound eyes, leaned forward on her speaking platform. You claim to be the humans of ancient legend, the mythical warriors our ancestors wrote about in their final messages. Minho's expression remained calm, but Dr. Vexili could see something ancient and tired in his eyes. We claim to be the humans who faced an impossible choice 3,000 years ago. We could have pursued a war that would have turned this entire galaxy into a graveyard, or we could withdraw to the rim and become something else. Something better. He activated a small device, and suddenly the chamber filled with holographic displays, star maps showing the galaxy's edge, energy readings from deep space, tactical analyses that made the Council's military advisors gasp in recognition. This wasn't just advanced technology, it was proof of an intelligence network that spanned the known universe. For 3 millennia we have stood watch at the galaxy's edge, Minho continued, his voice growing heavier with each word. We have fought battles you never heard about, against enemies you couldn't imagine. We became the guardians your species never knew they needed. Engineer Cho stepped forward, her hands remarkably steady despite the magnitude of what she was about to reveal. Captain, the Devourer Vanguard has breached Sector 7. Long-range sensors confirm they're moving faster than our worst projections. We have perhaps 6 months before they reach the first inhabited systems. The chamber erupted in confused voices. Representatives demanded explanations, military advisors shouted for details, and panic began to spread like wildfire through the assembled delegates. But Captain Minho simply raised his hand, and somehow, impossibly, the entire chamber fell. Silent. The stories your ancestors told were true, he said quietly, his words carrying to every corner of the vast space. We don't disappear because we are myths. We disappear because we are protectors. Every time your civilizations faced extinction, every time your world stood on the brink of destruction, we were there. Dr. Vexili stood up from her seat, her research finally vindicated. The Krathan machine war, she called out, her voice shaking with excitement. The Tilari civil conflict, the sector dimensional invasion. You were there for all of them. We were there, Minho confirmed. And when each crisis ended, we made sure the survivors forgot we existed. We couldn't risk the galaxy learning about the real threats lurking beyond your borders. Fear would have destroyed you faster than any enemy fleet. Communication Officer Dong-Hyun Park stepped forward, activating his portable display. Show them the deep space readings, he said to Minho. The holographic display expanded, showing massive energy signatures moving through the void between galaxies. Mechanical constructs the size of moons, consuming everything in their path. The Devourers weren't just another alien species. They were a force of nature that turned entire star systems into raw materials. This is why we reveal ourselves now, Captain Minho said, his voice carrying the weight of 3,000 years of hidden sacrifice. Because for the first time in our long watch, we're losing. The chamber fell into stunned silence as the implications sank in. The mythical humans weren't returning as saviors. They were coming home to die alongside the galaxy they had protected for so long. The silence of deep space was broken only by the soft hum of Scout Tae-hyun Lim's reconnaissance ship as it drifted through what had once been humanity's proudest achievement. The Kepler defense grid had been a marvel of engineering, a network of automated defense platforms that could have protected an entire star system. Now it was nothing but twisted metal and floating debris, harvested by machines that saw beauty only as raw materials to be consumed. Tae-hyun's hands moved steadily across his control panel, his training keeping him calm, even as his sensors revealed the full horror of what lay ahead. Through his view screen, he could see them clearly now. The Devourers. Each construct was massive beyond imagination, the smallest ones dwarfing the largest human battleships. They moved with mechanical precision through the asteroid fields, their harvesting arms stripping matter from rocks that had floated peacefully in space for millions of years. "Sweet stars," he whispered, watching as one of the machines finished, consuming an entire asteroid in seconds, its internal processes converting solid rock into building materials for more of its kind. "Control, this is Scout 7. I have visual confirmation on the breakthrough." His communication array crackled to life, connecting him to the human fleet command ship, New Soul. "Scout 7, this is Control. Report your findings." Tae-hyun's voice remained steady, despite the magnitude of what he was witnessing. "Sir, the Devourers have completely overrun the outer perimeter. I count at least 12,000 major constructs, with smaller harvester units numbering in the hundreds of thousands. They're moving in formation toward the galactic spiral, consuming everything in their path." He adjusted his long-range sensors, trying to get accurate readings on the approaching mechanical tide. What he saw made his blood run cold. "Control, they're not just harvesting randomly anymore. They're building something. The larger constructs are assembling. I don't know what to call it. It looks like a mobile factory the size of a small moon." The response from Fleet Command was immediate. "Scout 7, transmit all sensor data and return to base immediately. Do not engage under any circumstances." "Understood, Control." Tae-hyun began the data upload while keeping one eye on the Devourer fleet. As his ship turned away from the destruction, he caught a glimpse of something that made his heart sink. In the distance, barely visible even with his enhanced sensors, more mechanical shapes were emerging from the void between galaxies. The 12,000 he had counted weren't the main force. They were just the beginning. Back on Council Station Alpha, the great chamber buzzed with nervous energy as Admiral Yeon-Soo Han stood before the assembled representatives. Her uniform bore the insignia of battles fought in places the galaxy had never heard of, against enemies they couldn't imagine. Behind her, a massive holographic display painted a picture of approaching doom. "Honored council members," she began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had spent decades fighting an impossible war. "What you're seeing is the truth we've hidden from you for 3 millennia. The Devourers aren't just another hostile species. They're a force of mechanical evolution that consumes entire galaxies." The display showed the wave of destruction approaching from beyond known space, with trajectory lines that made several council members audibly gasp. Dr. Vexili leaned forward in her seat, her archaeological mind finally understanding the pattern she had spent her life studying. "The energy signatures," she breathed. "Every dead civilization I studied, they all show the same pattern of resource depletion just before their final messages." "You were there fighting these things?" Admiral Han nodded grimly. "We were there, but not always in time. The Krathan homeworld fell despite our best efforts. We saved their colony ships, helped them find new homes, then made sure they forgot the details of their evacuation. Better to let them believe they escaped on their own than to live in fear of the machines that destroyed their birth world." Specialist Da Yun Song stepped forward, activating another section of the holographic display. This one showed star charts spanning the known galaxy, with thousands of small markers indicating hidden human installations. Every world the Council considers naturally defended has human guardian systems. The energy shields protecting the Telari core worlds, human technology. The asteroid defense networks around Zephyrian space? We built and maintained them for 1,000 years, Council Speaker. Thexara's compound eyes reflected the holographic data as she processed the implications. The Velnari spoke of their lucky asteroid deflection system that saved their homeworld from cosmic impacts. That was you as well? For 8 centuries, Admiral Han confirmed. We've been the invisible guardians of over 300 inhabited systems. Every natural disaster that mysteriously missed populated worlds, every plague that burned out before it could spread, every cosmic threat that just happened to change course at the last moment, most of those were us. The chamber erupted in confused voices as representatives began to understand the scope of humanity's hidden protection. But Admiral Han raised her hand, and the room fell silent as she prepared to deliver the news that would change everything. "We reveal ourselves now because our long watch is ending," she said quietly. "For 3,000 years we've held the line at the galaxy's edge. We've sacrificed entire fleets, lost whole colonies, and watched our own people die in battles. That history will never record. But the Devourers adapt, learn, evolve. Each wave is stronger than the last." She gestured to the tactical display, where Scout Taehyun's data painted a picture of overwhelming mechanical superiority. "Our latest intelligence shows that they've developed new construction methods. They're not just consuming matter anymore. They're converting it into more advanced versions of themselves. What took them centuries to build before, they can now accomplish in months." Dr. Vexili stood from her seat, her voice shaking with the weight of realization. "The archaeological pattern I found, the civilizations that survived impossible odds, then forgot their saviors. You didn't just fight beside them. You sacrificed yourselves to save them, then erased the memory to protect them from despair. Memory is a luxury that dying species can't afford," Admiral Han replied. "Hope is more important than truth when you're trying to rebuild a civilization from refugee ships and orbital habitats." Specialist Song activated one final display, showing the current status of humanity's remaining forces. The numbers were sobering. 10,000 ships against hundreds of thousands of mechanical constructs, with more Devourers arriving from dark space every day. Council Speaker Thexara stared at the evidence, her forearms trembling as she grasped the magnitude of what she was seeing. "If you've been our protectors for 3,000 years, if you've sacrificed so much to keep us safe, why reveal yourselves now? Why break your silence?" Admiral Han looked directly into the speaker's compound eyes, and for the first time her military composure cracked slightly. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of 3 millennia of loss, sacrifice, and desperate hope, because for the first time in our long watch, we're losing the war, and if we're going to die defending this galaxy, we'd rather die fighting, alongside the people we've spent 3,000 years protecting. The chamber fell into absolute silence as the truth settled over them like a shroud. The mythical humans weren't returning as saviors. They were coming home to make their final stand. The Nexus Point had been humanity's greatest secret for 3,000 years. Hidden in the gravitational shadow of a dying star, the massive fortress stretched across space like a metallic city. Its docking bays now filled with ships bearing the colors of dozens of different civilizations. Commander Junho Bayek stood on the observation deck, watching history unfold before his eyes as alien vessels docked alongside human warships for the first time in recorded history. "I never thought I'd see this day," he murmured to himself, watching as a massive Krathan battlecruiser carefully maneuvered next to the human carrier Busan's Might. The size difference was striking. The alien ship dwarfed the human vessel, but the human technology gleamed with 3 millennia of refinement and battle-tested efficiency. Navigation Officer Heejin Kim approached with her status pad, her expression a mixture of excitement and professional focus. "Commander, the integration is proceeding faster than expected. The alien crews are adapting to our tactical systems with remarkable speed." "That's because they're desperate," Junho replied, watching as small shuttles ferried officers between ships, carrying tactical data and coordination protocols. Desperation has a way of making impossible things seem reasonable. Throughout the massive station, training exercises that would have been unimaginable just weeks ago were taking place. In Docking Bay 7, Zephyrian pilots practiced formation, flying with human fighter squadrons, their reptilian reflexes complementing human strategic thinking. In the tactical centers, Krathan weapons specialists worked alongside human engineers to modify alien energy cannons for use against Devourer. "Armor plating, status report," Commander Bayek called out as they entered the main command center. Haijin consulted her displays, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was reporting. "All fleets report ready for deployment, sir. We have human forces numbering 4,000 ships, Zephyrian 3rd and 5th fleets adding 3,000 vessels, Krathan battle groups contributing 2,000 heavy cruisers, and various council member fleets bringing our total to 15,000 ships ready for engagement." The numbers were impressive, but everyone in the command center knew they were facing odds that would have been considered suicide just months ago. Through the massive viewports, they could see the gathering storm, mechanical constructs appearing. At the edge of sensor range, their numbers growing with each passing hour. Admiral Yonsu Han entered the command center, her presence immediately commanding attention from every officer present, regardless of their species. Behind her walked Captain Lee Min-ho and Dr. Vex Seeley, the archaeologist now serving as the civilian liaison, to help coordinate between the different alien cultures represented in the fleet. "Officers," Admiral Han began, her voice carrying clearly. "Through the chamber's communication systems, today we make history. For 3,000 years, humanity has fought this war alone, believing that isolation was the price of protection. Today we learn that unity might be the key to victory." She activated the central holographic display, showing the tactical situation in real time. The combined fleet appeared as a cluster of blue dots, while the approaching Devourer force showed as an overwhelming red tide stretching across the galaxy's edge. "The Devourers see only resources to be consumed," she continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. "They calculate efficiency, measure resistance, and adapt their strategies based on mathematical probabilities. What they cannot calculate is the power of different species choosing to stand together, pooling their strengths and covering each other's weaknesses." Captain Min-ho stepped forward, activating his communication array to address the entire combined fleet. "All ships, this is Fleet Command. 3,000 years ago, humanity made a choice to become guardians in the shadows, protecting a galaxy that didn't know we existed. Today, we choose to stand in the light alongside our allies, not as mysterious protectors, but as equals in a fight for survival." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Across the fleet, alien voices responded, in dozens of languages, their translation devices converting their words into a unified chorus of determination. Krathan war songs mixed with Zephyrian tactical chants and human battle hymns, creating a symphony of defiance that echoed through space itself. Then the sensors screamed their warnings. At the edge of the system, space itself seemed to tear open. As the Devourer fleet emerged from their interdimensional transit corridors, the mechanical constructs were even more terrifying in person than they had appeared in scout reports. Each one was a masterpiece of destructive engineering, their hulls bristling with harvesting equipment that could strip the matter from entire planets. "Sweet stars above," whispered He-Jin, staring at the tactical display. "They're massive." The largest Devourer constructs dwarfed even the biggest human dreadnoughts, their surfaces covered with smaller mechanical units that swarmed around the main bodies like metallic insects. But as Commander Bayek watched the enemy approach, he noticed something that filled him with hope. The alien ships in their combined fleet weren't retreating. Krathan battle cruisers moved into formation alongside human destroyers, while Zephyrian carriers launched fighter squadrons that merged seamlessly with human tactical wings. "All ships," Admiral Han's voice rang out across the fleet. "This is Admiral Han. Today we show the universe that some things are worth fighting for. Today we prove that the bonds between civilizations are stronger than any mechanical force. All units, engage at will." The battle that followed would be remembered as the greatest naval engagement in galactic history. Human tactical expertise guided alien firepower with devastating precision. Krathan heavy weapons punched through Devourer armor, while human ships used their superior maneuverability to strike at weak points their alien allies revealed. Zephyrian fighters, with their natural piloting instincts enhanced by human strategic coordination, danced through the mechanical formations like living lightning. For 6 hours, the combined fleet fought with a unity that surprised even their own commanders. When Krathan ships ran low on ammunition, human supply vessels raced through the battle lines to resupply them. When human fighters were overwhelmed, Zephyrian squadrons dove in to provide cover. The mechanical precision of the Devourers met the chaotic creativity of a dozen different species working together. As the last Devourer construct finally went silent, its harvesting arms falling still as internal explosions tore through its mechanical core, a cheer went up across the combined fleet that could be heard on every communication frequency. The impossible had happened. They had won. Dr. Vexili activated the fleet-wide communication array, her voice shaking with emotion as she spoke words that would be recorded in the archives of every civilized world. Let the records show that, on this day, humanity was revealed not as myth but as promise. The promise that no species stands alone in the darkness, that guardians exist even when we cannot see them, and that unity can overcome any force that threatens the light of civilization. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of Soul's Pride, watching as human and alien crews worked together to repair battle damage and tend to their wounded. Around him, officers from a dozen different species coordinated rescue operations and casualty reports with the efficiency of crews who had served together for years rather than weeks. "Sir," called out Communications Officer Park, "we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. Every major civilization is requesting formal alliance protocols. They want to know how they can help prepare for the next wave." Minho smiled, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders that had been there for 3,000 years. "Tell them the truth, Park. Tell them that humanity isn't coming home as conquerors or mysterious guardians. We're coming home as allies, ready to stand shoulder to shoulder with anyone willing to defend the light against the darkness." As celebration continued across the combined fleet, the galaxy itself seemed to breathe easier. The long watch was over, but something better had begun. An alliance forged in battle, tempered by sacrifice, and strengthened by the knowledge that even the darkest threats could be overcome when civilizations chose to stand together. After 3,000 years of exile, humanity had finally come home. The end.